I've been working on the list of the area plan objectives and priorities and goals and objectives and priorities, I think. So I'm on, let's see, I've been copying them from the Cobb area plan and just sticking them into a Word doc. So I'm on 5.
From the
Chapter
1989 plan?
Yeah, the old one that's still active, because one of our deliverables as a LAPAC is to sort of give the core team direction on which of these objectives and implementation things are still current or need to be discarded, or if we're missing anything, or if the current ones need to be changed. So I thought it would be easier to just create a document that has them all in one place so that we could all be working off of the same list and kind of you can just read them on your own time, and in the side column just mark like a K for keep or a D for discard or a C for change, and then we'll focus on the ones that are marked C's as a group to see how we want to change those.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like do some sort of multi-voting kind of process?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It'll be helpful, and that way, because I don't think it would really be productive to go line by line, because right now I'm on like page 10 just of copying and pasting these things over, so that would take us flipping ever.
Yeah, no, I think if anybody wants to read it and pull out something different, they can. And it's not like it's not a public document.
Yeah, totally. I just thought this would help us be more efficient.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. That's helpful.
All right. So before we get started, a little housekeeping. Just a reminder of the timeline. We've got a few meetings scheduled. Let me pull that up. In the remainder of LAPAC season. And the input, Darlene's mic isn't working. Okay, we'll keep an eye on the chat, Darlene. Just feel free to send your input via chat. Where am I? Virtual meeting calendar. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, there we go. LAPAC working schedule, MGT. All right. So we do have a few more meetings. Let's see. Where are we today? Today's Saturday 2nd. We've got 3 o'clock on Wednesday the 6th, 11 o'clock on Friday the 8th. And then our in-person has been moved from the Little Red Schoolhouse to Mandala Springs. And it starts at 2. So 2 to about 6:30. That's on Thursday the 14th. There was a schedule conflict. Little Red had a scheduling conflict.
Oh, okay.
I think they're doing something else that day. All right, and then that closes us up for LAPAC season. But then through the rest of November, December, and maybe prior to early January, the core team will be working on synthesizing all the data that's come from the LAPACs and turning it into the draft area plans, at which point I will then reach out to LAPACs again after the holiday season when we have draft area plans to go over, and that's when we'll start having a few more meetings too. Again, just to make sure that we haven't missed anything or gotten anything wrong.
Just a point of information. Who is the core team?
That'd be me. County side would be Shannon, our deputy administrator, Michelle Iris, who has been our principal planner but is moving over to resource planner. And then and Ruby for scheduling. Then we have a number of PlaceWorks staff. Like 5 of them at any given time.
Okay. With specific, expertise, I assume.
Indeed. Plenty of expertise on doing general plans and area plans, and a whole bunch of other planning documents. Let's see, let's go over the survey. We ended on question 11. So we'll pick up where we left off.
Still trying to log in.
Mireya, that was just quickly the 14th, 2 to 6:30, right, Mandala?
Yeah, Robert, 14th, 2 to 6:30 at Mandala Springs, not the Little Red Courthouse.
Got that changing.
Did we do number 11 or did we quit after 11? That part I don't know. It just opened up for me right at 11.
Can you read the question? Because I'm not sure. I don't have the actual survey open in front of me.
I have notes. I have notes that we did go over at least a little bit.
Of 11?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't think
We did a lot of chatting about industrial uses anyway, and
Right.
some of the other questions too.
We did touch on this one. Yes.
Okay.
I have a
12.
quick question about Mandala Springs. What building is that going to be in?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll make sure we have some signage.
Okay.
Is it hard to tell? Because I thought that they were kind of clustered once we got there.
It's
Look for the one that has the lights on.
It's probably the one right behind their reception meeting. That's where the pair meeting was a couple days ago, and it's their general purpose gathering room.
Cool. Number 12. Are there any communities or neighborhoods that are not well represented in the local area plan?
So,
A lot of people thought no, but then we did have some write-ins.
Well, I think the question or the write-in just before Gifford Springs probably gets at the issue. Represented in what way?
So the way would be, are they covered? Do you feel that the policies and the or the priorities and objectives reflect priorities and objectives of all the communities that were within the Cobb Mountain planning area, or do you feel that any are missed that need some focus? Like maybe different policies, design guidelines, objectives, things like that.
I mean, my sense is if not, we can deal with it once we get to a draft plan. I mean, it looked like, we don't have any specifics, so it's hard to say what's been addressed and what hasn't been to some extent.
Yeah, and the area plan isn't really, the goal isn't to go community by neighborhood and like spell it out. It's more of an overarching sort of stuff. And that's kind of why the next question sort of follows up on 12. If there are any communities or neighborhoods that require localized policy guidance.
Okay.
And the surveyors again said no, but I wanted to know what the LAPAC thinks.
I would agree with that myself. It seems like all of those specific little areas up in this area as a main body, each and every one has their own little kind of feel and network on how they work. Even all the way down to I don't know if Anderson Springs was considered in that, but Whispering Pines, Loch Lomond, and just everything has its own specific uniqueness. So I think that's kind of a great thing about it up here. I would say it's all good.
Okay.
well,
I'm sorry, Elliot,
Yes.
We should probably do the hand raising. I was going to say, one issue that we still probably haven't completely addressed is the area plan boundaries. And like Siegler Springs right now, I think a good chunk of Siegler Springs neighborhood isn't in the Cobb planning area yet, unless we've already adjusted the boundaries. So I see a number of people have mentioned Siegler Springs here, and they're not addressed in the Cobb plan, but probably should be.
Yeah, no, the didn't get a lot of attendance at the in-person LAPACs to when we were looking at planning boundaries. So I was going to bring that back to each individual LAPAC at our in-person meeting with the input that we did get at those other two meetings. So the end recommendation for changing of boundaries will be LAPAC by LAPAC. So you guys will get to cover that at our in-person meeting. Go ahead, Jessica.
I'm still trying to understand what the breadth of what is meant by policy guidance is for that particular question, and maybe that would help me be able to give some feedback on it. In terms of like communities, neighborhoods, areas, I think that if there were any areas that were lacking support, they're the ones that don't traditionally fit into our little village hamlets, the ones that are more rural, the ones that are further out and kind of in between zones of these places that already have some of those support networks in place.
Okay. So once you start going through the current area plan to take a look at those policies, you'll kind of get a better feel for actually the purpose of this question. Because there are quite a few of them that talk about specific communities. And so I'll finish up this document that I'm just showing you just to see what I've done so far today. As far as gathering all of those, our next deliverable is to go over the actual policies and objectives that are currently in the Cobb Mountain Area Plan to see what we want to keep or discard or change. And so you'll start seeing a pattern as you go through these things. So be sensitive to maybe any communities that are missing. We could circle back to that, any missing communities when we, I guess, get back in at like a future meeting. Once we're talking about these, you'll feel a lot more informed. But I did make note of the Seigler Springs, which hasn't been considered because it's not part of this planning area. When we do, if the LAPAC does choose to want to integrate it into the area, then yeah, that's a good point. How should the county preserve small town character?
I did want to pipe in.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, we're not done with hands. Go ahead, Elliot.
Again, yeah, I did want to, since it's my little baby here, the Seigler Springs issue, it's something that we've talked about, for years, really, this rural hamlet process. And I would like to, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but would like to begin to think about what would be a process for doing something like that. Would there be a local public process? What would the county need in order to be able to make that kind of change in land use and zoning?
I'm not sure what you mean. Integrating Seigler Springs into the planning area, or policies specific to Seigler Springs?
A policy specific to Seigler Springs, i.e., creating a different kind of zoning overlay for it.
That would take a process where I think in the planning area, it would be listed as a priority and an objective that in the next, however long period of time, the community development department work with the Cobb planning area regarding priorities for Seigler Springs. I don't know about creating a zoning overlay, but it's specific to kind of the hamlet housing, right? Yeah.
Right.
Are there any other policies that?
Well, it's the housing as well as neighborhood scale commercial, walkable scale commercial. I can forward again. I kind of did a whole kind of concept about what such a land use conception might be. That would basically include a certain a defined level of higher density housing, as well as neighborhood scale commercial. And again, this is something that we've circulated quite a bit over the last couple of years. But I wanted to start to get a sense. What my hope was that rather than that, since we will be doing a wholesale update of the zoning ordinance following the general plan, that this would be something that would be able to be included in that rather than having to go through the individual time, bureaucracy, and expense of doing that.
Sure.
Have it be part-
So what we want to do then is make sure we talk about this at our in-person meeting, because why don't we just, if the LAPAC decides it wants to add Siegler Springs, why don't we just go ahead and get recommendations on land use designation changes at that time? I don't know that it has to be
Okay.
later. I think we can start it right now.
Great. Good. Thanks.
Sure. Jessica, did you still have your hand up? If not, I'm going to go to Mike.
Actually, it's for the next question, so I can just remember
All right.
me next time around.
Okay. Mike, are you on localized guidance, or are you on the next question too? Small town character.
I think, well, the first, both kind of, I guess, the number 15 has made me think of comment 14. On
Okay.
14, I noticed that several of the yeses were about the Cobb Village area. And living up here at Cobb, it's always great to go down to the post office and the stores down there. It has a very pioneer log feel to it. I don't know. I know some areas have zoning that keeps something in a historic or a certain theme. So this is requesting input on localized guidance. Like I said, the thought is that it looks like there's community input that we would have some kind of guidance to kind of keep the Cobb Village feeling like that current rustic log feel.
Okay.
And that ties into the next question about preserving that small town feel. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any way, I don't know if you want to make it zoning requirements or more incentives. Is there a way to make it when they need to do building permits or signage that there is incentives for people to keep to a certain theme?
We don't have incentives, but different area plans do have design guidelines. Like Middletown has their Western theme. Lower Lake has also expressed interest in developing some design guidelines to keep their kind of old, their historic character. So if it was if this LAPAC wanted to make sure we captured that, then yeah, we would put in a priority or an objective to work with the community to design or to create design guidelines for future commercial development, which could include future commercial development could be like a new store coming in that wants to change a current facade, something like that. They would be given those guidelines so that they could make sure that any updates they're doing to their structure maintains the character that the community wants to keep.
That's quite true. I don't think we're going to have a grocery outlet or a Dollar General tomorrow, but we wouldn't want like one of those mini box stores to drop in and really change the whole feel of the village. So yes.
And yeah, even if there was like a Dollar General type of store in the future that wanted to come in, they would have specific design guidelines. So whatever whatever did come in would have to fit. So we hadn't had a lot of luck with the design guidelines in Dollar Generals, years ago, but I think I didn't understand at that time. I didn't see the differences that I've seen in other jurisdictions where a chain store like that has gone in. Some of them look pretty dang cute because they had to. And so it helps to have those design guidelines already in place so that they know what to expect. And it kind of gives us, like the planning division, the tools to stand on it and be like, okay, this is your first run. This is your normal box looking store. You can come back when you're ready, because here are the design guidelines and this isn't it. It helps us to be able to make sure that it looks like what the community wants.
I guess I would think that it might not happen tomorrow, but if this plan is going to be a 10+ year planning document, yeah, it could be something in the future.
Yeah. Okay. If I see nods, I'm putting that in as a priority. Good.
So
Yep.
can
Darlene,
I follow
okay.
up? Or
Yeah, go
you got
ahead.
somebody else? Okay.
Nope. You're number one. So you're right up front. Go
So
ahead.
you were talking about design guidelines. I have a question that came up the other day. Are 175 and Bottle Rock considered scenic corridors?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure they are, but let me take a look. Let's get that.
And then knowing what type or classification of a scenic corridor, so design guidelines should also be around, making sure that we're being true to the scenic corridors.
We don't have different types. We have a scenic combining zoning thingy, but we don't have different types of scenic corridors. No, that's not what I want. I want this one.
For some reason, I'm thinking that they are already established. I just cannot remember.
I'm pretty sure they are. Most of our main thoroughfares are designated scenic combining. There has been talk. Julia Carrera has this big scenic highway thing going on. That's state. That's not us. Let's get. Oh, let me see.
I'm just thinking about this time of year with fall, 175 and Bottle Rock are very, very much a part of that whole.
I don't have a scenic combining layer, but if you're looking as I'm clicking these guys, everything along 175 has that scenic combining.
And that's because it's a state highway.
No, that's because we consider it. No, sorry. The state stuff that Julia Carrera is talking about is a scenic highway designation. And that's a state designation. For us in the county, we have that SC part. Ooh, actually, I don't see right there. But the SC part, which is a scenic combining overlay, which means that it's something that we consider a community asset to preserve as far as like open space or main thoroughfare, or you'll sometimes see it where it's a broad flat space to keep our open vistas. We don't want like 3-story buildings right there by the roadside.
So does Bottle Rock have an SC designation?
Let's look.
There's a reason I'm asking these questions. Oh,
I'm assuming.
I can get to that in a minute.
Yeah. Yep. Looks like Bottle Rock does too. As I click down the road, everything's got the SC overlay on it. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Yep.
Does Harrington Flat have it?
That I don't know, because that's kind of not that I see. No. Harrington Flat's more of an enclosed road. You've got a lot of trees going right up. It's more forested. So it's not, I do not see it on that one.
So the whole preservation of our mountain feel has much to do with the roads and the access through and the way that looks as you're driving through. Obviously, trees during the fall, open, space areas, all allow for that country mountain feel and whatnot. And just wanting to make sure that, for any of the SC categories that, we're looking at the places where that they would make sense the most. And then also looking at areas of development around, Bog State Forest and around Loch Lomond, where the vernal pool is, around Boggs Lake, where the vernal pool and Land Trust and Nature Conservancy are, and make sure that that's maintained as, that natural space area. If any development comes into it, making sure that that's one of those knowns, to have that as a consideration.
Give me that list again.
Bog State Forest, development around that area. Loch Lomond vernal pool, development around that area. I'm not sure who the landowner is on that one right now. Then Boggs Lake, which is Nature Conservancy, is the title landowner, and Land Trust has a partial management responsibility on it. Am I missing any others? Anybody else? The places that are already established.
Yeah, I think those are the major ones that I can think of. I don't know. There's nothing regarding Salmino Meadows, is there?
No, so that's another one then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's still all private.
I think
land ownership
that is
there.
all private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As is the area around the Loch Lomond vernal pool. It's all basically consolidated by people who are developing the roadhouse there and the resort.
It is a marked place where CNPS and a few other organizations and agencies have actually documented and cited flora and fauna and such there as being, special or unique.
What's CNPS?
California Native Plant Society.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Sorry, I'll try not to use the acronyms.
So this sort of relates to the questions that we have a little bit later on regarding environmental protection and natural places.
So I have this so far as part of preserving small town feel is preserving the view sheds of Boggs Forest, Loch Lomond, Vernal Pool, Boggs Lake, and Salmina Meadows. Good. Anything else?
Well, I think also that the view shed coming down from Cobb on 175, but I think that's already protected because that's all that scenic combining corridor right there.
175 has it, yeah.
Yeah, coming out of Whispering Pines. Yeah, because you've got that beautiful view of Calione Valley from
Yeah.
that we probably maintain.
Yeah. I liked the high number of responses on the outdoor lighting, because preservation of our dark skies is across the whole county a priority. What else? Small town. Just leave Cobb alone. We don't want our town commercialized.
Is there any, I don't know if it's suggestive or would fit into a requirement or whatever, in terms of square footage for, our small town feel of a business coming in? Obviously like a full-size Walmart would have tremendous square footage, and it would be out of character even if we wanted it here. I don't see how businesses would find that appealing, but it's just one of those things that, I kind of thought about in terms of development coming in and somebody going bonkers with wanting to make something huge that just is completely out of place.
Yeah, that's covered in the land use element in the general plan, which we are putting those in the area plans this year. But you'll see here, right here, non-residential to floor area ratio, the FAR, that is the percentage of your portion of your property that can be covered by a structure. And so that covers, that sort of is where we are able to regulate use of a parcel. Though in commercial zoning, we have reduced setbacks down to sometimes 0. So it's, let me see what I could find as an example. That's just housing density. That's not it. Okay, so you start getting into it in your commercial zones. Calculating the area that can be covered. So in planning, when we get a building permit for a new structure, we're taking a look at setbacks, but we should also be looking at this. So I hope my planners are also looking at this, because it covers, it goes a little further than setbacks, though they are usually pretty closely connected. So do you have a 0.2 to 0.5 does allow for still some open space on the parcels. It's hard to sort of regulate any differently than that, just because our commercial zone parcels are of all kinds of different sizes as well. So let's put that then into a priority. How would we reword that? Not really saying the amount of overall coverage, but think about a priority, which is in future commercial development, we want to preserve blah, 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 blah. Next line. So did you want to start, Jessica? If not, I'll go on to Robert.
I was going to say, we want to preserve the view shed. We want to We want to ensure that the small town feel is, still there. Those types of things. So, I mean, if your setbacks are as such, and it's right on one of those scenic corridors in your view shed, and the problem I see is that we have some older commercial properties that are grandfathered in because they are right on the road. And so I'm, concerned that in the future there might be some, oh, well, that was something that, already exists. Why can't we do that? That type of a thing.
Okay. I'd have to take a look at the zoning ordinance for setbacks from the street. Typically, it is preferred that the stores be up close and the parking be in back, so it doesn't look like this big structure behind a big old parking spot. Go ahead, Robert. Go back.
Simple for what it's worth. I was just going to comment on actually what you ladies had just commented on. I was expanding on the small town feel. But I also wanted to just maybe touch base with one of the focus factors being that maybe industry or commercial businesses coming in, maybe looking at it like, I think I heard like a Walmart or, that would drastically change the small town feel, but maybe more for like us in that feeling where we're allowing things that not necessarily come in, but to be created and encourage people that can bring those things here or are already here that can get them up and running. Things that complement and encourage the growth of where we're at. I know a lot of people like to garden up here. Not that Middletown's that far of a drive or Lakeport, but a gardening center to promote more gardens and vegetables and foods and things as such. But the things that maybe haven't been in place that as we are growing and maybe it requires those things now, but not really changing the feel, like we like our small town gas station, not necessarily we need like a 25 pump gas station up here, with a 24-hour quickie mart or something and serving slushies, because that would change it. But it's nice to just kind of keep it where it's at. So I was just 3.5 cents. That's what I got on it. Thank you.
So preferring more localized commercial, like commercial meeting the community's needs as opposed to like regional commercial, which would bring people in from outside. Something like that.
Yeah, helping us to grow in the. Thank you.
That's helpful because that actually interprets into zoning later. Okay, let's see. Go ahead, Elliot. And Jessica, you still have your hand up. Do you want me to come back to you after Elliot?
For some reason, it won't let me take it down. I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know why it's doing that. So,
go ahead, Elliot.
To continue the thread from Robert, I would like to understand how to actually make a nexus to our economic development goals and how they have to do not just with preserving the small town feel, but really building on the strengths of and the character of the community. I think we spoke in the last meeting about our kind of forestry issues. I know that we're in a major conversation about biomass utilization altogether, both through we had a good conversation this week with some of the folks consulting on the transition of the Risk Reduction Authority to the Biomass Utilization Authority, and how we can actually develop a local economic sector here dealing in biomass. And so I would like to, not just limit to local serving retail, local serving commercial, but find ways to, without disturbing that, how can we support, or maybe it's, as you say, we make a priority or objective to promote the development of retail in that also meets some of our other objectives, particularly relative to forestry and forest sustainability.
Mhm. Cool. So preferring local versus regional commercial, like we were just talking about, could actually fit with that as well, in that you would be listing preferences or priorities in the local area plan for industries that would meet communities' needs, such as biomass or sustainable energy manufacturing, something like that. The area plan is all about listing priorities of the community. Mm-hmm. It's not going to give you a step-by-step on how we're going to create that environment in, as far as industries coming in, but it is going to give potential developers a strong sense of what the community is looking for.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Jessica really means it. Huh, you just raised your hand with your hand raised.
Is it coming on or off? Because on my end, it is showing
your hands
that it's not even
up.
there.
It's just up. It's fine. Just wave.
I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of following up on that. An example of a business at a larger scale that is regional, national, due to their contracts and such, that I think has done a very good job of keeping themselves low profile, but honestly, it's because of what they do. Reynolds is a perfect example, I think, of a larger scaled type business sitting in this community and not being, obtrusive or like overbearing that, hey, here's this development, here's this business going on. So, coming up with some idea and maybe some examples on either end of things as far as what we're looking at, always, looking at models basically, is always really helpful. And I don't know how anyone else feels about, what I had just said about, Reynolds in particular as a business. They do a lot of business, and they are, state and national, and they're very discreet about who they are, where they are, their development, especially after the rebuild, after the fire and such. At least I feel like it still allows for the smaller rural community feel to it. So just thinking about, different models or extremes of certain things. So.
Right. So listing the priority that it be complementary to the small town character rather than, detracting from it. So that way you could accommodate emerging industries or things that we haven't even thought of that would be good fits. Is that kind of where you're going? That's what I'm hearing. Good. Anything else before we go to roadway safety? All right. What should the county do to improve roadway safety for all users? So we want to look at multimodal. I'm really hoping that that's where this LAPAC is going, because that seems to be a general trend in the United States, to be looking at multimodal. So drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians. Every single survey has had the same top answer about roadway maintenance prioritization. So I'm looking for anything else to fill in and give some Cobb Mountain specific priorities. So there's that down at the 37 answers. There's that emphasis on multimodal and connecting communities. A lot of the other LAPACs have talked about, I'll go to hands then. Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah, again, having spent 10 years at the Transportation Planning Agency, I have a sense of the move over the last decade towards multimodal services. But what I don't understand, and I'd really love to see any good models of communities with the kind of density characteristics and layout that we have up here on Cobb, because I know how challenging it is to put together bikeways and shuttle schedules with reasonable headways, that actually would cut into the vehicle miles traveled. I mean, I would love to be able to get out, not have to use the car, but looking at the economics of mass transit and the development of bikeways, again, I would love to see some examples of how other jurisdictions have been able to solve this.
Good. Chris?
If we do begin to develop more towards, a small village hamlet type model that Jessica's mentioned a couple of times, and I think we've seen when we're talking at the last meeting about, we need to find ways to slow people down through Cobb Village, and I know Whispering Pines also often. People comment about how fast people go through Whispering Pines. So through these hamlet areas, and I think that speaks to some of the safety features, but people move way too fast through these neighborhoods.
Good. Jessica, did you have anything for this one?
I spent a month this last summer in different countries in Europe, and part of the south of France, small rural areas, just like we are, with the geography being very, very similar. Strangely enough, felt like I was at home a few times. I'm a firm believer in roundabouts after driving through areas like that. And it is amazing how it slows people down. There are far fewer accidents. There's a reason why there's been a push for it with transportation in this country. Most of the European Union has pushed toward it, and, it's pretty much everywhere. When I was driving through Denmark, they're everywhere. I think I saw 2 stop signs the whole time I was there, and I drove from one part of the country to the other. And it worked beautifully. I wasn't frustrated with slowdowns, you were always moving, and it kept the pace of the traffic at a much more manageable speed as well. So that's one part of it. The other part of what I wanted to say was looking at safety in terms of our roadways. We need to make sure that our few thoroughfares in this community for safety are paved and paved well, and are taken care of first before anything else is done. We need our ingress and our egress to be accessible and ready to go for a whole community needing to evacuate. Right now, that's not the case.
Do you have specific locations in mind?
Specific locations. Well, I mean, this would be a good mapping thing. When we're looking at the maps, we can bring that up. Bottle Rock, 175, because the state has control of the road, is working toward it. It's still not, as good as it should be. There are a couple of roadways that go through, like Sulphur Creek goes through, Harrington Flat goes through. And then I'm thinking, what else? What's down by Salmina? What's the road that's down by Salmina that goes around the other side of the meadow?
There's Diener.
It's not Diener. Diener's an offshoot from it. I can't think of the name of it.
It's Salmina.
Yeah, this would be a Paul Duncan question, honestly, in terms of looking at vehicles and knowing, traffic flow, and then emergency vehicles and their needs and such. But I think that is, we've had to evacuate out of this area more than once, and making sure those roadways are up to par for that is really important.
I'll mention Gulf Road and Cobb Boulevard, basically up into that area, right?
Yes, that is right. Those are thoroughfares. Harrington Flat's a thoroughfare. It's paved terribly on one side and gravel on another. They're not, a lot of times they're not considered because, they're 80 people that live out on my road where I'm at. So it's like, oh, not a huge amount of traffic. But when it comes time for emergency and if there are roads blocked, this is one of the few that you can use. And the road can't handle that.
Okay. I got 3 different things here from answers. And Robert, I'll go right back to you in a second. First, from Elliot, what it sounds like this would interpret, or what Elliot was talking about wanting to see similar models in an area plan, that would be investigate multimodal options for communities similar to Cobb. Second, we got traffic calming. We need to investigate options for traffic calming measures through our communities in Cobb. That was Chris's. And then second, prioritize pavement projects in areas needed for emergency evacuation purposes. And those are going to get determined through our emergency evacuation study report. That's also the county-wide emergency evacuation report that's part of our climate vulnerability analysis that actually informs our safety element as well as our climate adaptation plan. So that is coming. In fact, we were just looking in our last core team meeting, we were just examining a map right now where the subcontractor transportation people are going to start setting up their traffic counts in different areas all over the county. So it's ongoing, but yeah, we'll get that data. And so that's where I'm relying on the LAPAC meetings that would come back in January. I want you to keep this in mind, emergency roadways and evacuations, so that you can take a look at the community and let me know if we missed anything. Next. Are we ready to leave road safety and go on to sustainability of transportation, or did we have more roads? Oh, I'm sorry, Robert. Just blew you off there. Sorry. Did you have road safety stuff?
Just circling all around everything. You brought it in actually, and when you approached the subject, that was actually what created a thought that I just wanted to expand on about growth and safety and egress, ingress important. Like estates right now, for instance, is a good example. Like they have a pass-through route where you can bike and walk and maybe some quads, type things, can go to the store and whatnot. Pine Grove a little bit. It'd be nice if there was a little bit more interconnection in that way. Then, as electric bikes are coming in, like you're saying, Mireya, there's a lot of that growth happening in the entire world. It'd be nice if maybe Caltrans down the road, we could work with that to where 175, because you see a lot of mountain bikers just streaming down 175. And generally they're going about the same speed now with batteries and whatnot. But it would be cool if there was a little bit more. And we have a lot of mountain biking that does come to bogs, and it's probably growing as things are getting back on track. So seeing that growth come in, I could see where that would be a good focal point where there would be some good growth in creating some real yielding right-of-ways for bicycling and walking. Thanks.
Good. Okay. Elliot, go ahead.
Picking up on the biking, I'd like to, at least in the longer term, really have as an objective to build out a full Class 1 bike interconnection. That is, Class 1 bikes, bike lanes are lanes that are actually physically separated from the roadway, and to allow, particularly with the kind of electric bikes that are not safe, on these roads, that you could use it to get through the neighborhood here.
Sorry, I shouldn't have taken a bite right when I was about to ask you for clarification. So a Class 1 bike lane, do you mean alongside the highways, or do you mean like connecting, like on Robert's idea of connecting residential to commercial?
Yes, both.
Okay.
Again, I think a lot of it will depend, looking at I pay close attention to the development of the Napa Valley Vine Trail that they've been trying to put together, for the last 15 years, and the immense kind of logistical and, property right-of-way issues that are going to have to, this is going to be a long-term kind of combination of, where can you get right-of-way and, where do you get financing for doing something like this? But I would like to see, if we could even conceptually or develop a feasibility study, which is an initial stage of seeing, well, what would it take to actually create that kind of class one interconnected bike, or a multi-use, not bike. It could bike. Frankly, up here it could be equestrian as well. Bicycle, equestrian, pedestrian a network, i.e., not cars and trucks. That would connect the major neighborhood centers all the way from here down to Seagull Springs to Loch Lomond to Salminas to Cobb Center to Whispering Pines to the golf course and up on Cobb.
Good. Explore options for creation of Class 1 bike lane, both along highway and connection to residential commercial.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. 17. How should the county improve sustainability of the transportation network and support access to transit? We actually the answers that we had for the last one also really kind of address this one as well. But this goes a little further, or branches off just a little bit, talking about how we're connecting transportation from Cobb throughout more of the region. Usually this top one, develop transportation facilities. Nope, that's not it. The second one, this is usually one of the tops in all the surveys. The connectivity from local to regional. Public transportation to important destinations. Here's supporting more installation of e-chargers. What do you think about for Cobb?
I think for e-charges is a major strategic significance. I hear this from all of our kind of resort folks that finding a way to have e-chargers up here at strategic places is critical for us. ASAP.
Okay. E-chargers. What else? I'll go back up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to say, I think if, and I put a comment like this in the meeting chat, if we continue to sort of look through a lens of transitioning more towards a lower carbon economy, these types of things hit those points. The chargers, the biking and equestrian, the multimodal uses, the walkability, all fit within sort of that framework of trying to transition to less carbon intense economic models throughout the state.
Good. Jessica, did you have? I couldn't tell if you got your hand down or not.
No, actually, I can't even comment in the chat, and I have a message that says I am outside of the org. So
Wait, what?
I'm not a member of the chat. I don't know if that has anything to do with my hand raising as well.
Wait, what? Oh, some people out in this chat are outside your. I don't know what that means. You can't chat unless you're here.
Oh, it won't let me.
Ooh. Chris's family is from south of France. That's totally cool. Thanks for putting that in the chat. And you can't get into the chat?
No, I can't.
Jessica, you're having challenges today.
I know. My hand doesn't know what to do. I can't get in the chat. It's what it is.
Good thing technology makes our lives better.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
All right. Did anybody have anything else on sustainability of transportation?
Oh, is there a possibility with bus stop locations to have a covered area?
Okay. How many bus stops do we have in Cobb? This guy
3?
says there's one at Hardester's and that's it.
Well, I think there used to be 3. There was one at Loch Lomond,
There is.
one at Hardisters, and then there was one, was it near Whispering Pines, or did they take that one down?
No, there are weird pullouts in strange places as you go down the mountain that don't make much sense. So we should probably make sure that any pullouts or bus stations are placed consistently with neighborhood density because they're not right now.
They're not right now?
I believe there's one down by Diamond Dust on 175.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, those are some of the weird ones that are just like, why is this here?
Well, because there's a cluster of housing there.
Well, okay. I mean, and if it satisfies some attention to density.
It also
Yeah.
may be something needing to be done so every so many miles within a certain area that has density too.
I think there's
What?
probably one up here near the Summit neighborhood too. I'm just not sure where it is, but they can be mapped.
I think it might be good to improve the marking. There is one at Whispering Pines, like you mentioned. It's at the turnoff for Gifford Springs. You first make the turn, and then it's a dirt spot on the left. And sometimes people park there, some of the construction and road workers. So it's not very well marked, and sometimes the spots are blocked by other activities.
Okay. I've got improve bus stops to include cover areas to shelter patrons, update the planning of transit stop locations to meet the needs of community sizes, and more public outreach and signage on location for bus access to transit stops.
Also, the transit stops having consideration for mobility. Some of those places aren't paved, and we have quite a few seniors in our community that have accessibility issues. And I mean, I don't know where that's at with ADA compliance or in the plans or
I would think that they'd have to be ADA compliant, but I don't know. What do I know? Okay, so
it might
improve
be
bus
in a
stops.
phase 2 plan or something. I don't know.
That doesn't make sense. Improve bus stops to include covered areas to shelter patrons and ensure accessibility. And I put ADA just for clarity. Update planning of transit stop locations to meet the needs of community sizes, and more public outreach and signage on location for bus access to transit stops. Anything else?
Darlene's got a note in there, and I think
Darlene agrees with Elliot. What did Elliot say? I didn't capture that.
I think that's 20 minutes ago or so, I believe.
Okay. Oh, okay. And at Old Hoburg's, and why no bus stop signs? I don't know. But we're going to cover that as a priority. We need them. Good.
Can the bus stop signs have the schedule on them too, or something along those lines?
I think that would be possible.
I mean,
Sometimes,
we don't
like, in
have
the-
a huge schedule, so it would be one of those things like,
Okay. Hold on. I'm going back to improve bus stops and include bus schedule signage. Good. Okay, next question. How should the county protect, preserve, and manage historic and cultural resources? The preservation and adaptive reuse is always the top answer, but I don't know why. I don't know it. Jessica, your hand is up. I can't tell if it was up. I guess not, huh? Let's go to Elliot, and then we'll come back to you if you are waving.
Okay, I think this is a big issue. There is one, I don't know whose comment it was, but it's about a 3-page comment. Basically focusing on a
Yeah, that one.
Promoting the consciousness, acknowledgement, and development of partnerships with our tribes. And for us, obviously, it's Big Valley and Middletown. And
Yeah.
we're excited about the new park that's being put up here, and we understand that the park department is working very closely with Middletown to make sure that there's a maximum participation in that. But when we talk about our history up here, we're talking about clearly indigenous pre-unsettlement time, as our tribal friends call it. I think that there's this long list of potential actions and priorities that I think it's the second bullet under other responses. Without reading through them, I think all of them are quite to the point.
Does anybody want me to share screen again? I unshared, but I still have it up. If you wanted to see what Elliot's looking at. No, are we good? I kind of like seeing everybody.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
I'm looking at it on another screen here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cultural heritage ordinances, conservation easements, community education programs, cultural festivals and exhibitions, cultural impact assessments. We do that. That's law.
Yeah.
Partnering with foundations and NGOs, cultural land trusts. Ooh, that's cool. I've never seen one of those. That's awesome. Let's see what else. Private and public landmark designations. Yeah, there are a lot of good ideas. Tribal sovereignty and consultation. That is something that I know this department takes extremely seriously. Oh, there's a hand up. Okay, go ahead, Jessica. Then we'll go to Elliot and then Mike.
A couple of ideas that have floated around for several years, and a lot of comments that I've heard from multiple community members as well. We have a state demonstration forest in our community, and in other areas, those demonstration forests have taken on a little bit more of a role of talking about the history of an area. Since the whole understanding of what the forest's initial purpose was is completely gone now after the Valley Fire, looking at working with partnerships along those lines, and potentially working towards something like having some sort of a center there for history in the area, as well as an educational center about fire and, how it works in a community, how it works in the wild. Education is always something that I'm looking at, obviously. And that's a perfect area to do something like that and have support with different agencies to work on something like that. We also have a couple of large landowners in this area that have their own mini museums on their property. I don't know if everybody knows about those places. I've been in one of them. It's pretty extraordinary. It's family owned, obviously, but those families are, they're moving on in the ways of aging out, and perhaps we could look at doing something that's more significant for the community. Parks are a good place to do something like that as well for informational. We have a state demonstration forest. Looking at partnerships along those lines rather than trying to do something independently. Oftentimes you can get more funding and more support along those lines when you're dealing with organizations and agencies like that.
Good. Mike.
Yes. I guess adding on to what Jessica has said, or in association with what Jessica said, the historic properties. I think we could promote the visibility of those. We had mentioned in one of our earlier meetings about the Hoburg's Resort. And so there's a large history of that. I can't remember the detail, but it was a pretty prominent resort in its time. Lots of celebrities coming before the Tahoe days. And as Jessica mentioned about the Valley Fire, so possibly promoting some type of historical development or facilities that would connect that history with what changed with the current fire. And I do remember back to it. It sounds like from some of your earlier emails, they did not find anything on that earlier Hoburg's I guess it's like an initial or pre-meeting permit.
Yeah, I didn't find anything.
But when I was at the meeting in person, they were showing maps. They may have not submitted those, but they concluded a historic preservation type of theme, and had put a building on the property that was for a museum. So if Hoburgs was ever to redevelop, I think somehow supporting where the public, I don't know how museums get funded, or at least some tax, again, some type of incentives if they included a history and possibly tying into that natural background also that Jessica described.
Yep, good stuff.
In addition to some of the traditional tribal, I do really think the county is very progressive or proactive. I work with tribes throughout Region 9, 3 different, Arizona, Nevada, and California. And California is an outstanding state itself working with tribes. But I must say Lake County, with their involvement of tribal leaders on this board of supervisors and how they've worked with tribes in the planning, everything from groundwater to the lake management. I think we're very lucky that, or fortunate that the county is much more engaged with tribes than many other places in our country. But I don't want to forget the local historic also to tie into that. I think that gives a diversity to your background of the area.
I'm glad to hear your viewpoint on that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Not back to Jessica, going to Elliot.
Now, I want to point out that we do have a Cobb Mountain Area Historical Society.
Do you really? I didn't know that.
It's kind of informal, and it's basically a Facebook page. And cool. It is. Remarkably and serendipitously enough, it is maintained by Richie Booker, who's the forester at Boggs Mountain Forest. So he's constantly basically posting. I think he's an avid collector of memorabilia and photos and things like that. And so I think that making this nexus potentially between the forest and the Historic Society would be a nice objective for our local area plan.
I wonder if anybody from the Cobb Mountain Historical Society would be interested in participating in the Heritage Commission, because they're getting revived right now, and they want to take another look at that ordinance that kind of killed them off the last time, when they all quit. Kind of want to bring that back as far as looking at getting some use out of the historic structure overlay that we currently have in the zoning ordinance, so that property owners can access federal and state grants for maintenance of their historic structures.
Interesting.
But if we've got it organized enough to be a society, that'd be awesome if they had their voice there.
Yeah, I think the society is reaching at this point.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but and Jessica, is that Family Museum Glenbrook? Is that where you?
Yes, there are two actually. There's another one, and then the Prathers have quite a bit as well, just over time and such.
That's some history just there, just with Prathers.
Yep. But the Mankey family has a museum way out Glenbrook Road, and it's pretty extraordinary. And it's their family museum, but I know at some point in time there may be that question of, what do we do with this, or if there was a better place to have it be preserved and on display for the community, that type of a thing. I mean, those are all discussions that can come up. There's also another gentleman that was part of the Lake County Historic Society for a while. He has quite a few things, and he's over by Pine Grove, and why am I not remembering his name right now? At any rate, I'm sure there are people that know, and that would be an easy thing to get going. My question was just looking at organizations trying to develop something, because then you have access to grants and funding and can really develop something out of that. So, looking at it from that perspective, moving forward in that direction.
I did not capture that. Was that something you wanted me to make sure I captured? If so, could you restate that just one more time?
Sorry, is my internet now cutting out?
No, I think it was my brain cutting out.
So if we put it within our plan to, keep an eye out long term for developing something in this community, or maybe a bunch of somethings in this community that are specifically focused toward looking at, the history and historic preservation and whatnot, and then working with different agencies and organizations. Obviously, Bog State Forest is a state agency, and they have the potential to work with the county or the community or whatnot, and maybe there's grant funding out there to develop something longer term. So kind of looking at it in that framework, and then looking, to private landowners that have collections. And if we had a space and a place to display them, would they be interested? Talking to the tribes in the area, seeing what their thoughts are, knowing, trying to find out, are there some historic places up here that are positive, that might be, a good thing in the community to designate or celebrate.
Yeah, we want to be careful there because we don't want to say, look, there's a tribal site right there, because we need to protect those resources where they are.
Yes.
But maybe some sort of educational, interpretive stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
okay, so what I've got is
show off archaeological sites that we don't want people to know about. No, that's not
No.
No.
So I've got develop museum collection or educational facility location to highlight the historic families and resources of the community. That's what I got out of that. About right? Okay, good. Chris?
Yeah, I do want to point out also that in the Cobb resilience and redevelopment strategy that Elliot was very instrumental in developing, there's a whole cultural capital section, which outlines a lot of the priorities of the community that were informed really by one-on-one interviews, key informant interviews with parts of the community. So one thing that I would suggest is that as part of this process, we look to that document as well, because I think it establishes some pretty important components that are directly community informed. Thank you, Elliot, for that work.
Give me that name of that document again, Elliot, because I haven't seen it for years.
It's the Cobb Mountain Community Redevelopment Strategy. You could see it at sscra.org under our projects tab. It's also
at cobbareacouncil.org.
Right, it's also on the cobbareacouncil.org. It's the Cobb Mountain Regeneration After Catastrophic Wildfire Community Resilience and Development Strategy.
I think you sent it to us before, but could you send it again just to make sure we don't lose that? Thank you.
I will send it to you today.
Awesome.
And as long as I've got the mic, my hand up there basically is to note that we do have another small historic display at the historic Little Red Schoolhouse, which is, I think it has an official historic designation of some kind, and it also has, a small display in the historic area of the building.
Cool. That's awesome. All right.
I have a follow-up on that.
Go ahead.
I guess how beneficial would it be to make a designation for the Little Red Schoolhouse to be a historic site? Would that be advantageous or not? Or
well, I think it might already be listed on the state, but I'm not sure. But the advantage would be to then access the grants for maintenance of the structure. That's the basic benefit. You are sort of restricting yourself in that future maintenance and renovations would keep the historic character of the building, but that doesn't mean it can't be renovated, like its guts and its bones can't be renovated to be up to date.
Okay.
It just means that it's going to still look like the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Yeah, I think it had to do with knowing how when the add-on was made, they didn't touch the three walls. They basically
that's what Darlene's saying. Part of the building is already designated historical. I remember having a chat when I was a planner, and Keith was talking to somebody who they needed to fix some part of the Little Red Schoolhouse, and we just sort of settled on that it just needed to look kind of like what it looks like now. You know, you can get the new door or whatever it was they needed, but you got to keep the same look. But it would be nice. I think it would be helpful just to have a tool to not only have buildings specifically designated as local historic assets, but then also the part about using the historic overlay is we could also amend the ordinance to refer to the already established, I think, Department of the Interior standards for renovation and maintenance of historic structures. And so then it's just a standardized thing for how to take care of those buildings. So it wouldn't be like arbitrary. You know, people wouldn't feel like they're getting targeted. The front original part. Thanks, Darlene. All right, moving on. How should the county protect and manage its open spaces? Woo, wow, time really went fast. Just quick time check. It's 4:19. We've got about 11 or 10 more minutes for today. So we'll go back to the calendar in a couple minutes before we adjourn for today. Okay. How should the county protect and manage its open spaces and preserve its natural beauty? Yeah, this is pretty much typical in all the surveys. Protect the lands and don't let them be encroached on by development. Got it. What else? Encouraging native plant species wherever possible. We had another LAPAC that we've got a guy from Water Resources, I forget his name, but he was talking about promoting native species over drought tolerant because the native ones are already going to know what our climate is like. Thought that was a good one. Jessica. Sorry,
I didn't have anything, but something came up.
Okay.
My hand is always up, remember?
Well, it's working out pretty well for you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that means I talk too much. Sorry. So the piece that I was thinking about with this, I don't know if it fits into this or not, but creating and establishing something to welcome in science in these areas as well. Having something established so that these areas that we're protecting, we have preserves, we have areas that are already noted as unique spaces. What can we do to further encourage research and science and such to come up here to look at these beautiful, unique places and help us understand how they're changing with climate change and such as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Elliot.
Okay, I'm going to weigh in quite a bit on this one. First off, I would again, I don't know who it is who's doing the second bullet, other comments on this, but again,
the novels. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever the novelist was, bravo. I mean, really comprehensive, well thought, detailed, and a lot of points that I think are. I
thought it was you, Elliot.
I know it wasn't me, but
I'm going to admit it was me.
Oh, yay!
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
This is me. Yeah.
I appreciate it. It did show a lot of thought. There's a lot of good stuff in these.
I was going to try to remain humble, but yeah.
Good luck.
All right.
The main one of the main points I want to kind of put in here is make as much of a linkage as we can to what will be kicking off to any moment now, the Cobb Area Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which as we put it together is going to be much more than just some evacuation zone clearing. We're looking to do a fairly comprehensive look at the forests here in terms of their long-term sustainability altogether. And so I think we need to recognize how integral the health of our forest is to both the community character, all the other elements we're talking about, economics, community character, and that we have kind of a high priority, particularly, I wouldn't say particularly, but signally in the context of evolving climate change and fire resilience, and really becoming, is what I would like to see in this document, a commitment to becoming a quote unquote fire adapted community, recognizing that fire is an inherent aspect of this ecology that we live in. And so there's all the things, all of the details that will flow out of kind of a goal to become a fire adapted community. The other piece that will not be directly addressed in the wildfire protection plan, but which is just as critical, is the related understanding of the maintenance of the restoration and resilience of our riparian corridors here in Cobb, the principal creeks and streams, both in relationship to their own, how much they are kind of a principal aspect of the quality of life here, but frankly also the large part that they play in the larger Clear Lake Basin. And, we do have these principal creeks, particularly Adobe Creek, Kelsey Creek, Coal Creek, and Siegler Creek, that are historic hitch-bearing creeks and are of significant, cultural significance to the tribal partners and in the community. So I would like to see, a promotion of, this is something that we just have begun to explore through our watershed education restoration program, is the identification of local watershed associations. I know that there is, this is kind of a national model for this, where landowners are able to understand that they actually any parcel is part of a watershed, but particularly in the Cobb area, which is so dominated because we are such a kind of mountainous and canyon-like ecosystem. We have a lot of creeks, and promoting formation of watershed associations of people associated with the principal creeks and their principal tributaries. That I think would be good to call out those principal tributaries. So yes, we have Kelsey Creek, but under that we have Alder Creek and Sulphur Creek and Jones Creek and Houghton Creek and Schwartz Creek. I mean, just off the top of my head, those are 5 creeks, each of which could be reasonably assisted to form a local watershed association. I think I'll stop there now.
Yeah, there's Elliot, there's a model for this. We've also got, you're largely talking about the Clear Lake watershed basin on the north side of the mountain.
On the north
the south side of the mountain, we've got Puda Creek. And there was at one time a Puda Creek Watershed Association. The gentleman that worked for the RCD that came in and talked to us at one of our watershed education meetings, Elliot, I can't remember his name, was a part of it. But I can find it. But there have been watershed associations. But there was one for Puda Creek specifically. I have reference to it in some book that I've got. But I think to the point here is that one aspect of this that I think I hear from Jessica and Elliot is that we have some sort of mechanism for monitoring and data gathering along our waterways, whether it's citizen science, or very specific and clear water preservation and monitoring methods to be able to gather data and understand what's happening in our waterways. Because I mean, like our property, the 160-acre property that we have along Anderson Creek is designated as a waterway, and Calpine is supposed to be doing water monitoring, but I can't find anything out about what it is. They're not being public with the data. And I find it quite irritating. So
establish a water preservation and monitoring program, right?
Sure.
Promote formation of a watershed association to preserve the health of the many Cobb creeks.
I think those are great. And it may be modeled after what Big Valley has going on with their water monitoring program. That I mean, they've got a great one. Their water monitoring is focused on primarily the lake, but I think they do some upstream monitoring as well. Sarah, why am I blanking on Sarah's last name?
Ryan.
Ryan, thank you. Yes.
Good. Okay. Go ahead, Elliot.
To follow up on that, sorry, Elliot. Tahoe region, they have like 7 or 8 different watershed associations or councils or organizations, and many of which are like, not right within the lake area. They're further up and away. So those potentially could be models to look at as well.
Elliot, and then Mike, and then I think we're closing this one up.
Okay. I'm not sure where to put this, but I just did a quick scan and I don't see any other topics for it. But I would like to raise a concern of attention to the ongoing health of local septic systems, and that as an environmental concern. And particularly since this is a very forward-looking plan, and I would like to also have put some kind of objective to explore alternative community scale water treatment options, such as constructed wetlands, which we have looked at the subdivision scale.
Wait, say that one again. What was that term again?
Constructed wetlands.
Constructed wetlands. I remember that. That was super interesting. Constructed wetlands.
Yeah. I also made mention in some of the further up in some of the light industrial uses that we might think about. There are other neighborhood scale wastewater treatment that are low odor, and the technology is really improving there. And I know, Elliot, you were looking at that for Bright Village as well.
I've got to go, but I do want to say regarding the last comments on the watershed councils, the county used to host, I think they're like conservation districts. There was an East Lake and West Lake.
Yeah, we still have those. Yeah.
Okay, I know Greg Dills was a staff member. So I think those, and they get funding with EQIP dollars, Environmental Quality Improvement Program, NRCS money. I think it's funneled through the state. The tribes get the funding directly. But yes. So there could be EQIP dollars out there for some watershed council support. But many times it's hard to get the participation. So sometimes they lump it together and have it like the whole half the county. Okay, I got to run. I have a wood delivery.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, explore alternative community scale water treatment options such as constructed wetlands for wastewater treatment and other emerging technologies. Got it? Okay. Jessica, did you have anything else? If not, we're going to take a look at our next, where are we? Saturday the 2nd. All right. Our next virtual meeting is Wednesday the 6th at 3:00. We are going to continue on the second survey. I think I'll put a little time in tomorrow to finish the Word doc on the area plan stuff, and I'll get that out to you as soon as it's done. So when you do get it, if you could just go through those, identifying what you think we want to keep, change, discard, because that's going to be our next process.
If it's helpful, I'd be happy to host that as a Google Doc and have everybody just kind of weigh in.
Well, why don't I just send it to you then?
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay, that'd be great. That's a very good idea. We don't do Google Docs at the county. I don't know why.
Yeah.
We don't.
So nice.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Just make sure that Google Docs editable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. People do that.
Okay, just make sure.
Yeah.
All right. See you, Robert. Thanks,
Thanks.
everybody. Thanks, Pamela.